From galaxy-altering massacres potentially going down at an entirely different point in time, to the franchise's first ever F-bomb very nearly erupting into existence recently. These are those Star Wars events you won't believe were seriously close to becoming a reality. Gareth here from What Culture Star Wars, and here are 10 deleted Star Wars moments you won't believe nearly happened. Number 10, Darth Bane and Revan arrive on Mortis, The Clone Wars. Sitting as two of the most notable Sith Lords the Legends era of Star Wars continuity had to offer, Darth Bane and Revan both potentially making their presence known in the Clone Wars animated series would have no doubt come as a welcome surprise to extended universe lovers. But that show's supervising director Dave Filoni and the mind behind the galaxy himself, George Lucas, both quickly realized that this rewarding cameo may not actually be the wisest of calls after all. Set to originally go down during a sequence on Mortis involving the Sun, Revan and Bane would have acted as the embodiment of the dark side and attempted to influence the Force-sensitive figure. However, before the sequence could be fully completed and animated, Lucas and Filoni agreed that the twosome appearing and existing beyond death would have likely contradicted the established way of the Force and didn't line up with how the former viewed his creation. And while this would bring any hope of Revan popping up in Clone Wars to an end, Bane would actually finally arrive on the scene during the Sacrifice episode in Season 6, appearing as a spectre before Master Yoda. Number 9, Vader wasn't actually Luke's father at one point. Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Had Lee Brackett's original treatment for The Empire Strikes Back been stuck to, and not revised by George Lucas and Lawrence Kasdan in the wake of her tragic death? During the early development stage of Episode 5, one of the most iconic utterances in cinema history may never have wiggled its way into pop culture at all. That's because Brackett's script didn't actually depict Darth Vader as Luke Skywalker's father, with the Dark Lord of the Sith and Anakin Skywalker both very much being separate entities during this early treatment. In fact, Brackett even went as far as to unleash a scene that would have seen Luke's dead father appear before his child as a Force ghost on Dagobah. And said showing would have also come equipped with the revelation of Luke's sister not being Leia, as eventually revealed in the finished films, but another Jedi in training by the name of Nelith Skywalker. Simply put, the galaxy would have undoubtedly looked a whole lot different had Lucas and Kasdan opted to go with absolutely everything that Brackett had committed to the page. Number 8, Order 66 nearly happened one film earlier, Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. The executing of Order 66 still packs one hell of an emotional gut punch today. Would the effect of the clone troopers turning on their longtime allies later in the Revenge of the Sith day have felt quite as significant had it gone down one film earlier during the events of the appropriately titled Attack of the Clones though? Probably not. And that's likely why Lucas was said to have scrapped the original plans to have this stunning turn of events begin to unfold during the events of Episode 2. That being said, watching the Jedi attempt to stave off the threat of the Emperor and his clone army for a little while longer during Episode 3 could have probably paved the way for even more heartbreaking sequences of much-loved Force wielders being cut down by the newly born Galactic Empire. But all in all, resisting the urge to execute this order a few years earlier proved to be a wise move, and one that added even more emotional weight to an already epic last prequel chapter. Number 7, 2 Death Stars were very nearly operational. Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. You know what's more horrifying than one moon-like superweapon? You guessed it. And that's precisely what was once on the verge of giving the likes of Luke Skywalker and the gang an almighty headache during the events of Return of the Jedi. Earlier drafts of Episode 6 involved 2 Death Stars orbiting around Had Abaddon, the planet that would later become Coruscant as the years rolled by. In fact, Ralph McQuarrie even created some typically spectacular concept art depicting the 2 monstrous space stations hovering around in space above the planet. Their existence would eventually pave the way for Leia leading a team to the Green Moon that would have also been orbiting said Had Abaddon, as she attempted to stop both Death Stars being fully completed, much like she did in the finished article to be honest. Yet while there's no questioning the sight of 2 gigantic space stations bearing down on the Rebel Alliance probably making for one of the most unsettling visuals in the galaxy's history, opting to simply go for the one utterly terrifying rebuilt and energy-shielded superweapon took little away from the finished product in the end. Number 6, a 10-year-old Orphan was solo on Kashyyyk. Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Seeing a few familiar original trilogy faces pop up at various points in the prequel day definitely made for some of the most satisfying beats George Lucas was able to weave into his sprawling epics. However, there was actually a moment there when yet another notable OG character was on the cusp of popping up in Revenge of the Sith. As the action made its way to Kashyyyk during the closing stages of the Clone Wars, none other than a young Han Solo was once written into the mix, with Lucas introducing a 10-year-old orphan version of the eventual icon being raised by Chewie on his home planet. Not only this, young Solo would have also come equipped with a line of dialogue too, with the youngster telling Master Yoda, "I found part of a transmitter droid near the East Bay. I think it's still sending and receiving signals." Iconic, I'm sure you'll agree. Of course, this fleeting Han cameo didn't quite get past the concept art stage, and was ultimately dropped before the Kashyyyk sequences were shot. And while it would have been cool to see a quick nod to the eventual lovable smuggler, keeping the action more focused on the fall of Anakin Skywalker and other tales being told in Episode 3 was probably the wiser move. Number 5, a Porg loses their head. Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Whether you were a fan of all things Porg or not, the furry balls of curiosity most definitely made their way into more than a few headlines on the back of Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi. But had one particularly staggering moment involving the Acto critters got past the concept art stage, there's a solid chance they would have made quite a few more in all honesty. As revealed by ILM concept artist Jake Lunt Davies via his Instagram, a seemingly harmless sequence used in the finished Episode 8 flick once had some rather harrowing consequences for one of the little guys. Said exchange sees a Porg playing around with Luke's lightsaber, and perhaps getting a little too close to the emitter than one should. But before said critter gets a blade through the skull, Rey takes the weapon away for a closer look. Had Lunt Davies' unused alternative conclusion been breathed into life on screen, however, one of the darkest jokes in Star Wars history would have seen a Porg have their brains impaled by a lightsaber. Fun for all the family. Number 4, Obi-Wan Kenobi originally survived his duel with Darth Vader. Episode 4, A New Hope. Along with Darth Vader making it known that he was actually Luke Skywalker's pappy all along, Obi-Wan Kenobi being struck down by the iconic Big Bad in A New Hope acts as another instantly iconic occurrence to tumble out of the original trilogy. But again, this wasn't always part of the OG plan as it goes. As revealed by Chewbacca actor Peter Mayhew a few years back, an earlier draft of Episode 4 actually saw Ben make it out of his battle with his former Padawan alive. In fact, Kenobi would have even managed to get back onto the Millennium Falcon with the rest of the crew and escape the Death Star. Kenobi still wouldn't have made it out of the madness completely unscathed, being partially wounded by a stormtrooper blast after managing to slam a door between himself and Vader mid-duel. Yet with Obi-Wan's death proving to be a huge moment in Luke's path towards eventually becoming a Jedi, the concept of Kenobi actually surviving past this Death Star escape, while intriguing, would have robbed the project and franchise of one of its most important and memorable beats. Number 3, Boba Fett gets his revenge on Mace Windu. Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Han Solo wasn't the only original trilogy face ultimately cut out of the Revenge of the Sith chaos. On the back of witnessing his father be cruelly decapitated in front of his own eyes by none other than Mace Windu during the climactic events of Attack of the Clones, Lucas once appeared to be mulling over in Episode 3 moments that would have seen Boba Fett attempt to get revenge on the Jedi Master. As seen during a dazzling piece of concept art created by Warren Fu, Fett would have eventually come up against Windu once again, seemingly during Order 66, and ultimately managed to blast the all-powerful Force user through the chest with his pistol. Daddy would be proud. However, according to the caption accompanying said artwork in The Art of Revenge of the Sith, Lucas felt that, at just 16 years old at this point in the series, Fett would be too young to convincingly pull off this feat on screen. While it likely would have been a bit of a stretch to believe a youngster could get the better of such a seasoned Jedi general, seeing Boba rock up in full Beskar would have undoubtedly made for yet another outstanding prequel occurrence, but one that once again probably would have pulled too much focus away from the other bits of drama unfolding in Episode 3. Number 2, Darth Vader kills Darth Maul, Rebels. The animated corner of the Star Wars universe has brought with it some of the most unexpected showdowns in the history of the galaxy far, far away, and many of them just so happen to include a certain Maul. Despite getting to see the likes of Darth Sidious and Ahsoka Tano collide with one of the most memorable faces ever brought to the intergalactic table though, one animated Maul duel fans were never blessed with witnessing actually came incredibly close during the making of Rebels. As revealed by Rebels executive producer Dave Filoni, the original plan was to have Maul die during the Season 2 finale of the much-loved show, with said appearance simply acting as a one-off before biting the dust. And none other than Darth Vader would have been responsible for cutting down his former master's longtime rival. How poetic. However, the fact that Vader would quickly move on to his emotional showdown with one-time apprentice Tano shortly after slicing up Maul ultimately led to the episode becoming unwieldy, as Filoni put it. So due to the fact that this potential dream duel was little more than a fan faction fun thought, and the emotional drama centered around Tano and Vader, Maul was allowed to live a little while longer instead. Number 1, F the Empire, Andor. That's right, 2022 was oh so near to unleashing the galaxy far, far away's first ever F-bomb. What a world and a galaxy, eh? Producing one of the finest monologues the Star Wars live-action sphere has let loose in an age, Fiona Shaw's rousing speech as a recently deceased hologram Marva Andor on Ferrix is enough to leave even the most cold-hearted of fans punching the air in defiance. But had Tony Gilroy and the gang gotten away with the original emphatic final phrase Marva was initially set to spit out, there's a solid chance an entire rebellion could have been kick-started in homes the world over there and then. According to Dedra Miro actor Denise Goff in a conversation with Empire, the term "fight the Empire" wasn't actually what the actors on set heard on the day of shooting that epic moment of Marva's last stand. As she put it, except at the end she didn't say "fight the Empire," she said "F the Empire," which we were all really excited about, but we weren't allowed to keep it, obviously. It's not that difficult to understand why Disney weren't in that much of a rush to allow a Star Wars show to fully cross that F-bomb line. But with Andor already pumping out the odd S and B word during its critically acclaimed run, there's at least hope for those who crave to see a badass Star Wars face producing a daring FU to the Empire in the next season of the Disney Plus offering. And that's our list. Know of any other deleted Star Wars moments you won't believe nearly happened? Then why don't you let us know all about them in the comments section right down below, because that's what it's there for, and don't forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're there. Also, if you like this kind of thing, then go and head on over to whatculture.com and find some more incredible articles just like the one this video you're watching right now was based on, and I would know, because I'm the idiot who wrote it. I've been Gareth from What Culture Star Wars. May the Force be with you as always. Thank you very much for watching this video today, and hopefully I'll see you very soon. Bye bye.